Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking yet again about this upcoming, I'm going to call it a snowstorm now, because this thing will be the first major kind of system that will be producing a decent swath of snow, increasingly likely. Recall yesterday we were talking about the probability of the European or GFS showing more or less snow, and it has begun increasing since, I would say, a bit before yesterday's video, the model started showing some increased snowfall, and they have stuck with that trend, if not further, even increasing some of that snow, especially across Wyoming, southeastern Wyoming, and portions of the panhandle of Nebraska into southwestern South Dakota and northern Colorado. So it will have the characteristics of a snowstorm, and it will be bringing quite some heavy snow. Now there's still obviously around 80 hours out before this thing does start producing snow, but the beginnings of the system will start, if you will, coming together as early as Wednesday across the plains and across the northwest as early as tomorrow. So I want to start off by showing you the GFS model. GFS is the model that I believe had a slightly better handle on this system. If you recall, the GFS and European model yesterday were in a bit of a disagreement. One model was showing further north, that was the European, one further south, the GFS. Now they've both pretty much honed in on a kind of in-between solution. It will initially track further north, but then completely almost stop its northern direction and slide off towards the east, as I'll show you in just a little bit. So notice we do have this system, as I mentioned already. It's going to be making its way into the northwest in the next quite literally few hours. There's already a rain hitting the Oregon and Washington coast areas, bringing showers there. This will continue to traverse through the mountainous west, bringing snow to Yellowstone, portions of the Bitterroots, the Cascades, into Nevada, maybe a little bit into the Wasatch of Utah, northern Colorado. And we do have this massive surge of moisture that we were talking about earlier for the southern United States that will be bringing a lot of moisture and rain for the south, but also opening up this alley of very, very potent winds, and that will be driving a lot of this moisture up north, allowing rain to develop pretty far out ahead of the system as warm air builds out ahead of this little cool air mass that is left behind from the previous system across much of the eastern and southeastern Canadian region. And notice that we do have, again, showers already developing into Ohio, Michigan on late Wednesday, early Thursday. This again is low pressure is already still way back in Colorado, Kansas, so it's going to be a long-lived system. And notice that as we get into the Thursday daytime hours, we do see this snow, especially you can see the GFS showing. You can see the snow really spreading out across a good chunk of Wyoming, a good portion of Nebraska, and this will be falling heavily. The mountainous areas actually do have winter storm watches across portions of Wyoming, and they're calling for 12 to 20 inches of snow in some of those areas. Obviously, that's a higher elevated areas, but still, nonetheless, it's a system that's going to be bringing quite a bit of precipitation. Notice it's a little bit further north with that initial shaft. It takes its kind of warm level of action precipitation pretty far towards the north, but it's still, again, not really moving much across Nebraska. You can see it's pinwheeling in place through around 7 a.m. Thursday through 7 p.m. kind of stays more or less stationary. Notice it doesn't really have a direct connection to the Gulf. There is a cold front that does try developing here, and this is where some severe weather could be developing, right where Missouri meets Nebraska, Iowa, and Kansas, and you can see that cold front does end up developing there with that highlight of heavier precipitation. Now at this point, the system moves further east and some of the snow starts abating. So this is now late Thursday into Friday, but notice this thing still produces a lot of precipitation across Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Some areas could easily see 2 to 3 inches of rain. And then notice, as I said, this thing kind of hits the Canadian kind of border and just starts sliding towards the south and east. You can see Wisconsin, Michigan still seeing quite a bit of that rain, but mainly abating, other than from the lakes where a strong northeasterly flow could be occurring. And this could be actually providing quite a bit of lake effect rain and showers for, say, Chicago, western Wisconsin, eastern Wisconsin, eastern Illinois, and potentially even into Michigan, and areas that typically see lake effect from a north and easterly wind. So that is interesting. Very characteristic of kind of again, a winter storm. But notice that the system, once it leaves onto the east coast, it doesn't really do much, and it moves away pretty quickly. The European shows a little bit of a different scenario here, and it shows a solution where we do have the system again making its landfall onto the coast right there, with the actual low pressure itself on Wednesday early day. But again, the precipitation is already at this point developing across the plains and the eastern kind of United States around the upper Mississippi River Valley. We have a lot of rain across the southeast. Both models show that. Again, a lot of rain for the southeast there. And just like the GFS, the European shows that system really taking shape. It has a much stronger cold front. A lot of showers again out ahead of this that could be stationary, moving in kind of one place or barely moving at all, producing a lot of rain. That's something to watch. And notice the European does develop a pretty nasty system, nasty cyclone. Again, quite a bit of heavy rain here possible, but the snow doesn't seem nearly as prolific, especially across Wyoming, as what the GFS shows. But I'll show you and compare the amounts in just a second. And notice, just like the GFS, this thing takes it a bit further north at first, right? Seemingly has a northeasterly track, but then it starts losing that momentum and starts shifting towards the south and east, and eventually just pretty much directly east. You can see right there. And again, a lot of wind around with this thing. A strong high pressure to the north is kind of squeezing it from the north, squeezing from the south. Another high pressure, though it's a lot weaker than this one, and then a relatively strong low pressure. So there's a pretty strong alley of winds that will be producing some lake effect rain and showers again. And notice that the European hugs this system much closer to the northeast coast than what the GFS does, and this one is a lot stronger as well. Right, so it takes longer to move out, and it's a lot stronger. And you can see the activity that it kind of, I guess, leaves behind is a lot more pesky and reluctant to move out. This high pressure really clears things out, though, as we head into the mid portion of next week. Total quantitative precipitation from the European model with this system. Again, there's that southern swath of moisture from that kind of tropical disturbance remnants, and you can see 4 to 5 inches. It's quite a bit. There's a good section of the country where this rain will completely avoid falling, as again, this system isn't directly connected to the Gulf Coast with a cold front or anything of that sort. Notice Washington, Oregon, coastal areas do pick up quite a bit of precipitation, even in mountainous, a decent amount. And obviously, I think the heaviest amount of rain will be where that system reaches its peak intensity. And, you know, 4 to 5 inch amounts of rain are definitely not out of the question. Notice where that lake effect is across northern Illinois, Wisconsin, 2 to 3 inches. Michigan into Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, picking up a good swath of anywhere from 1 to 3 inches. And in the northeast, potentially 1 to 3, even 4 inches. On top of that, already the wet soils I have there. In terms of total snowfall, the European, again, a little bit less bullish than the GFS, but still, I mean, the amounts across, especially northern Colorado, show a foot, 20 inches, and the Nebraska Panhandle, potentially still up to a foot. The Black Hills may be seeing 2 feet, according to the European, which is definitely interesting to see. The GFS, with its total accumulated precipitation, shows a similar setup. However, notice it's a lot less for the northeast and, say, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and more towards Wisconsin, Michigan. It seems, though, that the Dakotas and Iowa and southern Minnesota, northern Illinois, no matter what scenario you look at, will get heavy rain. The Canadian, which is kind of a tertiary model I use, you can see agrees more with the European scenario, showing heavier rain here. I could show you how it plays out. I don't like this model as much, but you know, if it does agree with the European and the Canadian is an outlier, then it tends to give the European a bit more credibility. I just can't say that word. Notice that this system behaves in a very similar way, pretty much no matter what model you look at, and yeah, pretty impressive system nonetheless. And I don't think I showed you the GFS snowfall amounts, which are a bit more heavier than what the Europeans showed. You could see several amounts also reaching 12 to 24 inches there, and a bit more widespread across the Nebraska Panhandle into portions of southern South Dakota. The Black Hills also seeing some snow. I can show you the GFS on here, so it kind of makes the comparison more fair. That was the noon model run. This is the evening model run. And you can see it's been consistently showing quite a bit of that snowfall there. And obviously, if you adjust for the snowfall ratio, it'll be less because it being a heavy wet snow. Nonetheless, though, still, you know, assuming the Kuchera ratio, a 11-inch snowfall event, a very heavy wet snow could definitely do some damage, especially if trees still have their leaves, which in some of these areas they definitely do, or coniferous trees that don't lose. You know, non-deciduous trees don't lose their leaves also could take a brunt from this system. So that's that. I do want to show you there's a threat for severe weather. Obviously, that day when that cold front develops from that system right across, again, as I mentioned, the Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, Iowa border there could see a little bit of severe weather. It's a pretty small zone. Wouldn't be surprised if it grows bigger and extended into day 5, into Friday, with some severe weather possible there as well. And again, up until then, you can see Wednesday, it's a pretty marginal day, nothing too big, but there is a wide thunderstorm risk there. And that is essentially pretty much all I wanted to show you. Just give you a quick update on this. I could show you the National Weather Service Weather Ready Nation map. Again, mainly just frost advisories as alerts on the maps. A really, really quiet pattern, but there are some winter storm watches beginning to pop up here. And again, if you click on some of these areas, you can see that the winter storm watch is coming from 12 to 20 inches with some pretty strong gusts of winds. And you can see they are showing that's, ready for that white stuff. Winter's coming. So they're definitely showing that as a possibility. All right, that's basically it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.